Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad, your best place for weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name is Austin Van Schuren.
And my name is Patrick Ferry.
And guys, welcome to our show. Well, everyone, welcome back. And what a big week, Pat. I know we always say that, but a lot of storylines this weekend. Some good, some bad.
Yeah, certainly a mixed bag, Austin. But yeah, I mean, all the good that came with it. And we're seeing it, episode by episode, just increasing more, from Champions League to, league play in Europe. Our young Yas are really stepping up to the plate here.
That's right. And making a name for ourselves, the whole world starting to kind of hear about our journey and some of these players. So yeah, what better time to be a USMNT fan than right now? I can't think of another one.
I couldn't think of another one, especially with 2020 coming to an end. Just setting up for a beautiful 2021 full of great American performances, Austin.
Very true. And this weekend, we had a huge week for one established USMNT player.
And the Dortmund starlet there with a huge performance and a pretty amazing goal there, but not the result the team wanted.
Yeah, oof. And finally, we have an unfortunate injury for a growing USMNT star. So all that and more in today's action-packed episode.
All right, everybody. We're going to start out with Italian fan favorite here now. I shouldn't say Italian, but over in Serie A, the American Weston McKennie. For Juventus, putting out another strong performance, Austin, coming off that Champions League, dominance. But yeah, it was a 3-1 win against Genoa there, so crucial for Juventus to stay in that Serie A race. And Weston played the full 90, and even picked up an assist. So it was nice to see him involved in the action. A few goals and assists now in the past few games, but just want to mention some quick stats before we get into the performance. Overall, it looks like I think Larry Henry tweeted out he won the most duels of the team with 7, but also did lose 8. But nonetheless, passing percentage was there. I think it was right above 80% there, 69 or 70 touches throughout the game, and again capped off with a lovely assist there to Dybala there. So. Yeah, all in all, it was a great performance there for Weston, Austin.
Yeah, and he's looks like he's in the starting lineup for Pirlo. Finally broke in. I know he started the season off in that first 11 for Pirlo, but then, like we said last time, the Roma game kind of dropped his standard of play a little bit, and he had to kind of work his way back from the bench. Also, testing positive for the coronavirus didn't help either. So. Yeah, it's good to see him back on the pitch, in that starting 11 pretty much consistently and doing big things. Like you said, Pat, I know we got another game to talk about. So, I'll leave it for that.
Yeah, certainly doing big things, Austin. And I just want to mention, too, a great point with, Weston inserting himself back into that lineup. And, we all knew he would prove himself and, again, get back into the plans. He just has that personality and in that drive to succeed. So again, like we've mentioned throughout the episodes, Juventus's midfield is just kind of a lot of rotation, tinkering still with Pirlo, still understanding the team and the youth that they have, where, Weston was lined up with, Chiesa there, Rabiot. I know he didn't start. I believe he didn't start in that Champions League game at Barca there. I think he came on. And then Bentancur has been a pretty regular fixture there. As well as Cuadrado was moved up to the mid. So usually you see him on the outside back role, but they did play a 3-5-2. So again, a lot of tinkering. Weston was kind of in that, slot in the central right spot. And you did see him again, all over the pitch, where he was making darting runs to the left, interchanging to the right. And, hence the assist there, Austin, where just that athleticism and his, I guess, just being so active on the pitch where he's making those extra runs. And I think it's really important where, maybe some players would stop and quit, but he, maybe he doesn't get the ball a few times, but he still makes that, 10, 15 yard burst, run to, bring defenders with him up the pitch. And it was nice to see him, again, I think towards in the second half there, received the ball in the air there and flicked it on a really nice header. Lead pass to Dybala there on the right, and he did the rest with some shifty moves and curled past the goalie there. But yeah, Austin, I mean, I think you're starting to see him connect with his teammates on the pitch, and then really kind of finding the game more. I think even just watching a few of the games in the beginning, he wasn't getting as many touches and still kind of figuring out Serie A, but it really looks like game by game he's adjusting to the system there, the tactics, and how to play at such a high level with some of these world class talent, with Ronaldo, even Dybala,
De Ligt,
a lot of great players. So it's nice to see him. Yeah, a lot of nice players there, and nice to see him put an all around solid performance.
Yeah, and I think the bigger thing that he did this week was his goal against, I should say in the Champions League. I can't remember off the top of my head who they played. Was it Barca?
It was Barca against Dest.
Right, it feels so long ago now. But yeah, what a goal, Pat. A work of art. I think I posted on our story on Instagram. It was such a nice volley. It
was unreal. Again, just like I mentioned, where he's just making those extra runs and fearless into the box and just getting on, using his head, or again with that beautiful shot with his foot there, where he just kind of launched himself in and kissed the camera at the end. You'll love to see that, especially against a Barca team. And that was a pretty, I was able to watch that game, which is nice. And that was action packed throughout, up and down for both teams. It was a little chaotic at some point. You could see Weston gave it his all, and a little bit gassed towards the end, but with that motor of his, he was able to make such an impact in the first 70 plus minutes there, combining really well and just looking more technical and able to find himself in the right spots, and again just make an impact with the stat line, which is always really important, especially to be in that starting position with a Juventus team that has been tinkering out the midfield. So it's nice to see him really put that thought in Pirlo's head and say, hey, Weston's been performing goals, assists, doing the dirty work there in that box to box style, exactly how Pirlo wants his team to play with that energy. So all in all, it's been a really solid Champions League and Serie A, a few games here for him.
Yeah, and he was arguably the talk of that game. Ronaldo, I believe, scored 2 goals, and this was the return of Ronaldo versus Messi for the first time, I believe, since Ronaldo went to Juventus. And Weston kind of stole the show. I feel like everyone was kind of talking about him after the game. And I think that's a huge storyline in and of itself, because you've got an American playing in arguably the biggest game of the season so far, at least going in. The two sides are kind of struggling this season. It hasn't been the best of seasons for both, but this was definitely a big game on the calendar at the beginning of the season. And here we go, having an American in this game step up and perform and be one of the better players was pretty impressive. I also think he won man of the match too by Tutto Italy, which is kind of one of the main magazines there in Italy. So that's pretty good boost of confidence.
Really impressive, because the press can be pretty brutal there if you're not performing. So great boost of confidence, Austin. And maybe you could even say, obviously Ronaldo and Messi, legends, but you could say that new headline, Weston McKennie. No, I'm just kidding there. But, it's just awesome to kind of see them, on the pitch with 2 of the greatest players, in our generation here.
Yeah, it's still crazy to see. Yeah, both of them. Yeah, we've got 2 players now on Barca and one on Juventus with Ronaldo.
Are we dreaming?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to see those pictures. But I think we've talked so much about McKennie. I feel like we could go on even more, but I feel like now we should pivot over to Germany, talk about another big storyline this week, and that would be with Gio Reyna at Dortmund. So kind of an interesting week there. Dortmund this weekend played Stuttgart, and we got to see 2 Americans on the field. One as a manager in Pellegrino Matarazzo for Stuttgart, and Gio Reyna for Dortmund. And this game ended 5-1 to Stuttgart, which, big surprise there, big upset. But Gio scored in this game. So he played 90 minutes. Honestly, Pat, was really the difference maker. And it's hard to say Dortmund had a difference maker with a a 5-1 loss, but really was the one player that always seemed to play in this game with that chip on his shoulder and didn't say die for the entire part of this game. So the goal was fantastic. It basically came off a long ball that Gio received on his left foot, and then in stride touched it over the goalkeeper, or I should say kind of around the goalkeeper into the net, all in kind of one motion. And speaking of McKennie's goal as a work of art, this was another work of art in a different sort of fashion. And yeah, it was really nice. Later on in the game, Gio actually scored another goal, but it was offsides due to Yusufa Moukoko, who played him the ball, being offsides. But yeah, like I said, Pat, the one thing we wanted to see from him that we talked about the last few weeks is that tenacity and kind of passion for the game and passion for being better than some of the performances he had after that quick start to the season. It definitely seemed like his game started to mellow out a little bit. He lost some of that energy. And in this game, Dortmund lost 5-1, but like I said, Gio was the leader, which is surprising for an 18-year-old with the captain, Marco Reus, Mats Hummels, even another senior player on the field in this game. But that's what it seemed like from my perspective. I thought he was, again, the bright spot. And yeah, then we got some crazy news after the game, but I'll throw it to you, Pat, before we get to that. What did you think of Gio's performance in this game?
Yeah, and I think it's important for that you mentioned awful scoreline, but Gio being that kind of bringing the team up and scoring that incredible goal, and with a really pretty solid performance there, like you mentioned, I think that just speaks volume. Like we mentioned, to his character. He just has that knack to be great, and he wants greatness, and I think that's something that a lot of players don't have. And just to you're a young player, you could hang your head with the rest of the team. You're seeing some of the senior players maybe drop their levels, and that can really affect especially when there's 11 guys there on the pitch. But yeah, I think that's just so important for him moving forward, with Dortmund in his career, to just have that mentality and to keep going even when things are bleak. And I think that really also sets him up well for whatever kind of happens with Dortmund's coaching and everything here in the future.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into that. So looking at Dortmund's recent record, basically their last win in, I believe, 5 games was against Zenit, which happened midweek in the Champions League, where they won 2-1. I believe they had to come back from being 1 down. And yeah, just over the past few weeks, we mentioned this a few weeks ago, they just have not looked up to their usual selves. They've looked a little bit disjointed. Erling Haaland, I said in the past, has really bailed them out in some of these games and kind of finished chances that normal strikers may not finish. And yeah, we kind of saw it come into fruition the past few weeks here, where Dortmund have just not been able to get results. And now they sit far back in the Bundesliga. They're not even in contention for the number 1 spot right now. And over the weekend, after this horrible loss to Stuttgart, Dortmund's management actually fired Lucien Favre. So, overall, I thought it was a pretty good reign for him at Dortmund. I thought he got the best out of this team several times over the past few years. And when you look back at some of the other managers Dortmund had, like Peter Stoger, Peter Bosch, even Thomas Tuchel, which I was never a huge Tuchel fan, but right. Tuchel did win that Pokal, I believe in 2017
I think
for
right.
Dortmund in 2016. I think it's 2017.
So not the best or the worst, Austin, you would say, in terms of the coaching.
Yeah, I would honestly say his tenure with Dortmund was one of the better tenures since Jurgen Klopp left. It's hard to top Jurgen Klopp, who actually won the Bundesliga with Dortmund. So I think that's a pretty fair. I thought his record with Dortmund wasn't bad. I thought it was pretty admirable. But with that being said, there was some grumblings that he didn't have the same type of vision for the team as the management had. He seemed to be more of a player's coach and kind of put, he was very loose and relaxed with them, which management kind of wanted to keep things more strict and kind of, how do I put it? Well, they had a very different vision of how a coach should be coaching. And I think he had another type of way to coach. And The two philosophies just did not really meet in the middle. And I think you could see that his leash was getting shorter and shorter over the spring of last season. And, there was some unrest you could hear last year. And this year, I think coming into the year, he knew he had, a short leash to work from. And yeah, it was unfortunate, but this was, the final straw that broke the camel's back.
So that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Looking at what Lucien Favre did at Dortmund, and especially in Gio Reyna's case, he was the coach that really had faith in him, showed that trust that you need as a young player to get into the side. And yeah, I guess I'm glad that he was the coach when Gio was there, because I don't know if Gio would have kind of rose up the ranks as quick as he did, or had would have gotten as much playing time as he did right from the start. So I guess we can be happy about that. But going forward, Pat, Eden, how do you pronounce his name? Eden Terzic was promoted now as kind of the caretaker manager for Dortmund. And he was their assistant under Lucien Favre. So it's not really a new, this isn't a youth team coach taking over. This is more of, the assistant to Lucien Favre taking over. So I'm not sure how long it's going to be, but he coached in the past also at Besiktas and West Ham under Slaven Bilic. So I don't know if you know who that is, if you're watching this, but he basically coaches at West Ham now, right, Pat? Or West Brom, right?
Right.
In the Premier League.
Yeah, he was at West Ham before. He had some stints there. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a pretty good manager. And like I said, Lucien Favre, I don't think is a bad manager himself. So we'll kind of see how he imprints his philosophy on this team. I know from some early quotes that he's had, he likes to play that kind of total football style. Some would even say that Jurgen Klopp, but also kind of Jesse Marsch style of football, where there's a lot of energy on the pitch, players moving all over the place. Positions are somewhat fluid. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how Gio fits into that style of play. Because from what we've seen, we like to see him stay upfield more. Yes, he can get back and defend and do some of the defensive work, but he really does best in the middle of the field with that 360-degree turn radius. He's really good at just receiving the ball and turning and going. So yeah, I think it'll be kind of interesting to see how this change really affects Gio, and what that looks like going forward this season. What are your thoughts on this coaching decision, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I know we were talking about it a little bit, and obviously you mentioned it, but it seems a little bit early. In my opinion, I know they were headed down a pretty bad path here, out of form, and hoping in the next few games they were able to kind of break that. Sometimes, teams' energy levels drop. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, Reyna put himself in the best position possible, coming in with a new, interim coach there. I guess you could say the caretaker, for the rest of the season, where, he did, his last game here, he did leave a mark, especially when, a lot of the players, were underperforming. So yeah, I think, like you mentioned, he's so well, in the central part of the pitch there, when he's able to turn and just, find those gaps, take on players, and have that burst of energy there, in the middle of the pitch, as opposed to the wings, which again is an option. But I certainly would, and I think I believe you would agree with me to have him more centrally located there.
Yeah, I think he's got to play centrally. The experiment we saw with the USMNT may not be the exact same role he'd play with Dortmund, and obviously there's different players on the field at Dortmund that arguably are better than the USMNT players. I think right now it's a little bit, there's some argument to be had. I know, Jadon Sancho versus Pulisic is an interesting battle, but you don't really have a foil for Marco Reus in the USMNT. So yeah, I think personally he's got to play in the middle of the park, and I think that's a pretty much of a given right now. Looking at the players on Dortmund, I think Gio is a player that does have some ability to move around the pitch, but I think with the other players that you have that are good wingers, like Torgan Hazard, Jadon Sancho is a perfect example, Marco Reus, who can play pretty well on the wing, better in my opinion than if you had to move him inside and push Gio outside. I just think that should be the position he stays in. But yeah, I'm really interested in that philosophy that we've heard from him, because Dortmund always liked that style of play, that total football where you're always pressing and going on the counter. And I think that could suit Gio, to be honest. I'm not sure defensively if that could suit him, because we just really haven't seen it yet. But I think getting Gio on the break excites me, and especially with Erling Haaland. Like, Erling Haaland is the type of striker you want playing on the break. Yeah, he's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, just taller and stronger, in my opinion. He's got similar pace, which is insane, and is just someone that doesn't do as well in possession as he does in the break. So yeah, I think that could pay dividends for Gio, assisting him when he's back on the pitch. And like I said, we'll actually get to see it this week, probably before this episode even drops. Dortmund play, I believe it's Werder Bremen on Tuesday. Just confirm that real quick. And yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I really think seeing a different style of play. Yeah, they play tomorrow at 2:30 against Bremen. So I'm really excited to see how this Dortmund team rebounds and plays in a slightly different style. I don't know if we'll see it right from this first game, but before we move on, Pat, I know we're kind of jumping all over the place and taking a long time on this part of the episode, but I think it's important, especially for all our fans who are probably wondering this question as well. So with Edin Terzic, being the caretaker manager, it doesn't sound like he's going to be in this position long term. Maybe he's in it for the full season. Maybe he does really well and Dortmund gives it to him, but most likely that's not going to be the scenario. So there is someone who is a coach that's been rumored to this position before, even before Favre was let go, and that would be Jesse Marsch. So Pat, is Jesse Marsch the ideal replacement for Dortmund? Or, is there another coach out there that maybe is better for Dortmund, but could open some doors for Jesse Marsch?
It's interesting. Put me on the spot. Yeah, I would say I kind of like it. I wouldn't say maybe 100% sold, but I do like, Jesse Marsch's philosophy and what Dortmund's style is. I think could certainly fit. He has had that experience and that jump now, over to Europe, and has his team playing that, attacking style there, with Salzburg. And again, some pretty good success, some also, maybe not so great performances in the Champions League, again, albeit against stronger, quality competition. But I think that would be really intriguing, Austin. In a perfect world, maybe, in the next year or so. I know obviously with the circumstances here, but I wouldn't hate to see it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really intriguing, and he would have such a dearth of talent, or just a depth of talent to work from, similar to what he's got at Salzburg. And he's also worked with Haaland before. That's one player that he'd have an instant connection with, and I'm sure he'd have an instant connection with Gio too. So yeah, there's certain factors to this move that actually make it a little bit more interesting when you take a deep dive. Dortmund's management likes to play that aggressive style of football. Again, that's kind of why Lucien Favre didn't really, I feel like, have as much time as he should have had. But I think that would fit Dortmund. The one thing that really concerns me is, Jesse Marsch, and I think he's made the perfect decision getting to where he's been at, going with the Red Bull program, or just that lineage and following the steps that he's taken with them. But stepping outside of that Red Bull umbrella has got to be a different type of experience. So my concern would just be, is that really the move that he wants to make right away after moving away from an organization he's been a part of for, I don't know, I think it's from 2014, 2015. That's a long time, and that comfort that you gain from working with the same people day in and day out, whether it's at different clubs and just meeting with them on a periodic basis to actually being in Austria now and kind of running that team. I just think that would be a very big switch. So I'm not sure if Dortmund would be the best place to go. I said this to you off camera. it's really tough to be a success in Dortmund. You've seen a lot of coaches come in and try their hat or try their hand and really try and take over for what Jurgen Klopp really established at the club, and no coach has really been truly successful. I think Thomas Tuchel has been maybe the most successful, winning that Pokal, and even he ended on bad terms. That was somewhat his fault, but I just think it's he's going to have to take his game to the next level. This is not going to be a job where he comes in and can kind of not float by or use what he's done. Obviously, it's a big step up, and that's what we want. We want our coaches and players being challenged at the highest level. But I do think this is something where he would have to come in and right from day one, there would be a lot of pressure. So I don't know.
No, it's certainly a lot of pressure. I think, like you said, just a big step in terms of clubs and the expectations Dortmund sets. So, like in a perfect world, maybe a few years down the road, he gets somewhere in between. But, who knows? We'll kind of have to keep that. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there's one more part to this that we should mention before we move on, and that would be two other candidates that have been mentioned with this Dortmund job are Marco Rosa from Borussia Mönchengladbach, who actually coached at Salzburg before Jesse Marsch, and Julian Nagelsmann, who's at RB Leipzig right now. So if either of those coaches goes to Dortmund, again, mid-season, end of season, I think Jesse Marsch should be and will be kind of the shoo-in for replacing either of those coaches. Gladbach, like Dortmund, is a pretty big step up, but that's a team that really is not in the conversation of they're not really not a team that you think is going to win the Bundesliga, unfortunately.
Right. But they're up there, usually top 5.
Yeah, usually if they finish in Champions League, people are happy. People think it's a success, and you could impart your style on a team like that and kind of turn heads without trying to take out Bayern, which is almost impossible right now. Even for whoever coaches Dortmund in the future, it seems like that's going to be a really tough challenge. So that could be kind of that perfect middle ground for him. So just thought I'd mention that.
No, I think that's a good point to mention. I think there's a lot of options for Jesse, and it'd be interesting to see. Maybe it's wishful thinking or just selfish of me to want that American connection there with Reyna, but I guess we'll kind of have to see. Like you said, Gladbach is a solid team, and I think that could be a really good stepping stone because I think he's going to have a very long career, coaching career there in Europe, and we'll kind of have to see where that goes. But I know we've had a lot of excitement with Gio there, and the future and the management there with Dortmund. But want to switch gears, Austin, to France and talk about kind of the renaissance or the resurgence here of our boy Tim Weah. So again, starting back in the Europa League, Tim actually got his first start, I believe, just checking his transfer market. So, take it with a grain of salt. But I think his first start, this year in terms of, all competitions there. So really nice to see him play, 78 minutes there, and then also, score, against his old, Paradise team there, where he had a nice stint. And just his overall performance there, Austin, he made a lot of great runs, a great movement in the box, and still trying to find the game and really, gel with his teammates and have that chemistry on the pitch, I should say. But you could see that as the game progressed in the second half, where he was in the right spot, where it was a free kick, and the ball kind of bounced out, to him, and he had a beautiful volley there, hit it in the air with his left foot, which is really impressive. And you could see he was celebrating and screaming inside, but he held it together with respect of playing for Celtic, like I mentioned, for that stint. So he couldn't go too crazy with the celebration there. So really nice to see him just get back on the pitch, Austin, play a lot of minutes. I know there's talks of positions with him, fullback, or even, with his limited playing time, rumors of loans and then staying there. So again, seems to be putting some of those rumors to rest there.
Yeah, it was so good to see him get a start finally. It seems like, he's been working towards that all season. We saw on Instagram with some of the posts how it's been a rough time for him this year. So really good to see that. And then, yeah, getting a goal too on the same day was really cool. And like you said, against Celtic, his old team, which he still has, strong feelings for. So yeah, good day, I would say overall.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And then, just talking about that next game quickly, against Bordeaux in the league, Lille won 2-1, which is great. But he actually subbed in on the 78th minute there. So again, not too much time to impact the game, but he did have some good moments and flashes. I know you can touch on it a little bit, and you pointed out off camera, but that flashes of speed he has, and again, just the movement, the danger he presents, going forward, and again, as he gels with this team, like I mentioned more, he'll get some more chances there and some more balls played to him. But I think he's doing all the right things, working hard in training, and you can kind of see that. I know some people are a little bit upset that he wasn't starting this game as well, but I know I would argue just with all these players going down and just the risk there, and coming back from a few really unfortunate injuries Tim's had, working his way back. Excuse me. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's not like he played just a few minutes there and subbed on in stoppage time. He had the solid champion Europa League game, as well as getting some minutes here as a substitute, and trying to make that impact in a close game. So yeah, again, I think it's just a point of easing him in, Austin, getting him some of those starts with cups and other competitions, or maybe in the league, kind of alternating there as he inserts his way back. It looks like he's really pushing, knocking on the door of that lineup. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed, trying to find some wood nearby and knocking on it for luck that he can just stay healthy. And I think he still offers so much for club and country.
Yeah, and I think the thing that gets lost this season is that Lille's in first place in Ligue 1. So that's a pretty tough team to break into right now. And seeing him do that this week with the Europa League game, obviously it was the last game of the group. There was really no pressure for them to advance. I still just think it's good to see him getting minutes and being important enough that the manager thinks, hey, we need to get him some more game time. So yeah, I think he's got great future. I think he's going to be a player that we're going to talk about for many years to come. So don't be worried about his future.
Yeah, I think we can all agree. I know, again, with those injuries were so unfortunate in that trialing year, the years he's had. So, it's amazing. Just kind of fits with the growing culture here in the team that the U.S. has, and grinding out and keeping your head down in the sense of just working hard to recover and train and really block all that social media noise or anything like that, and just show it off on the field. So again, I just want to quickly mention with that mentality and just that growing young Weah culture that we have, albeit he was already kind of with that PSG academy and working his way up there, but it's just nice to see some of that success and hard work come to fruition there for Tim.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. So I think with that, we'll move on to another player for this week, and that would be Zack Steffen. So Zack, still 25. We talk about players 25 and younger on this show, and Zack made his Champions League debut this week. So congrats to him. He played the whole game in Man City's 3-0 win over Marseille. Made 2 saves. Did pretty good, distributing the ball from the back. I personally wasn't able to watch much of this game. I just really saw the highlights and what some people said on Twitter, some people said on the highlight show about his game. So overall, everyone said he did fine. He didn't look out of place. And I think the big storyline coming from this debut is that this now makes 9 Americans to have played in the Champions League this year, which is a USMNT record. So I think that's huge. The previous record, I believe, was 5 or 6. And this year we almost doubled that. So, yeah, I think this is what we want to see, Pat. We want to see our Americans playing in the Champions League. That's been the goal of ours, I think, the whole time we've covered Americans playing abroad, is playing in the highest competition in the world. So I think it's worth celebrating that we've broken that record.
Yeah, just to think, even starting the show, Austin, and the years past, it's unreal to have Steffen, along with the other Champions League, Americans in the Champions League that we've talked about, really performing and being at just top level clubs as well. So I think that's just a statistic we can all be, really happy for, moving forward here, and hopefully we'll see more.
Yeah. And speaking of seeing more, we just saw the Champions League draw happen on Monday, and right now no Americans are playing each other. So there's potential to see, what is it now, 8 Americans in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So yeah, Ooh. If we see that, that'll be pretty impressive, because it would also mean that potentially 4 or 5 Americans could go to the semifinals. So, last year we saw Tyler Adams score in the semifinals, and I believe he was only one of 2 to play in a semifinal. I may be wrong. It may just been one of 2 to score, but there hasn't been many Americans in the semifinals, and we could see a lot more in the Champions League this year. So I think that's really cool. Just wanted to mention that real quick. Don't have too much more on Zack, but yeah, really cool to see. And I think with that, Pat, we'll move over to our next player.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about Antonee Robinson there for Fulham. Against my Liverpool, unfortunate, but great for Anthony and Fulham to get a 1-1 draw there. But yeah, I mean, for this game he started, played full 90 and had quite the stat line there in terms of a lot of touches there. I think in the 50s, his passing accuracy was pretty solid. His tackle success was 80%. I think it was 4 successful tackles there, 4 clearances, so very active overall. Again, I was able to watch most of this game, being a Liverpool fan, Austin. So it's kind of bittersweet. But yeah, I mean, just seeing him get man of the match too. I believe Fulham tweeted it out, and then who'd you say it was? Sofa?
Who scored?
Who scored? That's right. So again, really impressive, against the, defending Premier League champs. Again, throughout the game, Austin, he had some nice tackles sliding in Salah. There's some funny memes and tweets about, having Salah in his back pocket along with, what was it you point out, a lightsaber.
Jedi, man.
Yeah, Jedi. That's right. The Force was with him, Austin. So, yeah, again, he, put in a pretty solid shift in performance, to hold them to a draw. So some great crosses there, active play that we've come to see. I know we can kind of touch on a little bit here too. Just some concerns again that you could see where, he certainly favors one side and he gets a little bit uncomfortable when, either Trent or, some of the, Salah or the Liverpool, front 3 there kind of pressed them, made them lose possession or kind of just, kick it and scramble there. But again, he looked pretty impactful on the left there, and definitely, not a performance to, knock on there. And it really, really was impressive overall in terms of where he's begun the season. And then, getting his way starting in the lineup here for Fulham and looking like the bargain of the century for the team.
Yeah. Anytime you can get a man of the match performance against the defending champions, I think is a pretty good, a pretty good thing. Something that you got to kind of tip your hat to and be happy that we have a player that did that this weekend. It's interesting. I feel like I'm opening Pandora's box going into.
Let's open it, Austin. Let's open it.
Go into, but there's an very interesting conversation happening on Twitter right now around Antonee Robinson and kind of how he's viewed in the pool, whether or not he's the true starting left back right now for the USMNT if we had to play a game tomorrow or not. Whether it's Serginho Dest, Sam Vines, maybe, who knows? There's several other options I'm sure people have in their minds. But with that being said, this I guess discussion, this conversation, let's keep it civil, came around from a post by one of our good friends, friend accounts, One Goal. We're very close to them. We communicate with them a lot. And they basically, just gave a vote of confidence for Antonee and said that, he's one of the bright young stars that we should be excited about, which is awesome. And our friends over at Scuff Soccer, talked about this game from him not maybe being as, maybe that man of the match performance is putting it's really sugarcoating the performance he actually had on the day. So I'm interested to hear, because I wasn't able to watch this game, unfortunately, but I know, Pat, you did. So going into the tweets, I have the tweets here. He basically, this is, again, Scuff Soccer and Adam Bell's, again, a friend of the podcast, or, our show. His moment-by-moment performance was unconvincing. Lots of desperate scrambling, clumsiness in possession. However, the chaotic energy makes him a handful for the opponent, but that cuts both ways. Doesn't look in control, could have been whistled for a foul on the sequence leading to the Fulham goal, and then also gave the ball away, leading to the Liverpool equalizer. So it was interesting hearing that from him, because, we've seen some of this from Antonee at the USMNT level, whether it was that game against Brazil. Obviously, that's been several years ago now, I think almost 2, where it just was not the best performance from him. He looked a little raw. He wasn't great in possession in some of the games even following that. So I'm curious, Pat, there was, I feel like, 2 sides of the coin on this performance this weekend. Some people thought it was a great performance. Some people thought it was lacking and could have been better than what it's being billed as. So I was curious to hear kind of your slant on it, after what you just said. It sounded like you're kind of on the, it was good. It was,
yeah,
a good
and not to discredit anybody, and I think some really valid points from both ends, just because again, from the good perspective, and again, it's a tough Liverpool team that presses you, like you mentioned, that kind of old Dortmund, the Klopp style he brought over, the gegenpressing. Probably butchered that, but again, it's kind of hard to be in control against a team that really makes you frantic there, and against Trent Alexander-Arnold, bursting up, as well as Salah, Mane, you have Jota now, Firmino. So yeah, again, I thought in terms of the good, he has almost that, like Scuff mentioned, that kind of that craziness, or I forget,
chaotic energy.
Chaotic, I think. Yeah. Thank you. Just that chaotic.
It's an interesting way to put it. I think from what I've seen at the USMNT level, that's a pretty fair way of putting it. And like you said, cuts both ways.
Yeah, it does. You got to take the good with the bad, because he did make an impact with the good moving forward there, and some of the crosses and danger he presented. Trent kind of lost them at a lot of points, and even he had some really crucial tackles against Salah, albeit, like you mentioned, could have led to that goal there for Liverpool. But I think just overall, I would be pretty positive moving forward. He's still young. He just turned 23 in August. He just moved up to the Premier League, so you got to kind of give him some slack there. I mean, a player who was kind of written off by Everton, dropped in the championship, kind of toiling there with some bottom level teams, and now again with the struggling Fulham team there. But being able to, it's just one performance here. I think we got to take it game by game, and I think he still has a promising, bright future where we do have different scenarios, Austin, where we have maybe Vine, to throw a few other names there. You could throw Dest left, is Cannon, optimal on the right there. I still really like Dest on the right, but that's a whole other conversation. But I think if Antonee can kind of, calm down a little bit, maybe that's a little harsh, but just kind of relax and work on his weaknesses. When, like I mentioned, when the ball shifts to his other side and defenders force him there, he gets a little bit panicky and scrambles. So I think those are all things he's able to build on and improve, and he just offers, I think, a little bit more good than some of the few mistakes he does have going forward. So maybe I'm a bit of an optimist for saying that, but I still think he's kind of the guy there.
Yeah, and it's interesting too to look at not just this game, but the whole season. We saw a stat this week that kind of made its way around social media, and that's basically Antonee Robinson right now is the 4th highest left back rated by, I think it was a combination of SofaScore, Who Scored, and FootMob, kind of averaging all those scores. And he's the 4th highest left back in the Premier League. So yes, this game may be one game where he looked a little chaotic, but at the end of the day, he came out on top. I think it's safe to say he has raised his level over the past few years. And, the game against, what was it, Wales? We just saw him play with the USMNT.
Yes.
he did have some shaky moments, but overall, I thought he looked better than the past. So I think we all just need to have a little patience, like you said, Pat, and and appreciate and enjoy that we have a player starting for a Premier League team, getting high marks. I think that's something we should just be happy about right now, and let that starting left back discussion wait until we play those World Cup qualifiers later next year.
Right. And quickly add, I know here before real quick, awesome, but I think it's just great even to have the conversation, about this. We're at that level now where we're, debating, is somebody who's kind of made a pretty great rise and had his toils in the championship up to Fulham. Is he our starting left back? I think that's just, with the different sides here, I think that's just a great conversation overall, position by position the U.S. has now, which is a great problem.
Yeah, that's such a true thing to bring up. That's how far we've come. We used to be talking about was it Jorge Villafaña or Greg Garza? And, yeah. Thank goodness we can have some better options now than that, in my opinion. So now with that, we're going to move on to our final player for today, and that would be Richy Ledezma. So Pat, do you want to take over Richy Ledezma real quick?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, Richy, it was pretty unfortunate, Austin. I know it's a hard team to pronounce, where he's been picking up some momentum, a Greece team, I believe there, in Europa. But yeah, I know Ledezma, again, with the start, had to come off early. I saw that pop up on my phone. I'm like, I wasn't able to catch the game. Like, what happened? Why is he coming off so early? It can't be good. And it looks like it's, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news and it's already broke. But unfortunately, it looks like he tore his ACL there, which is really unfortunate, just with the rise he's had, the conversations we've had in the show where he's, looks like he's been knocking on that first team door. He's right there, and now he's performing with the U.S. on a high. Again, just these injury woes that seem to be plaguing not only some of the U.S. players here, but just, worldwide with COVID. I don't want to harp on it too much, but with the limited, rest they have and just shortened break, it's just kind of a really unfortunate situation for such a player that had a lot of promise. And, we were kind of projecting, hey, he's going to be maybe a full-fledged starter for this team, by the end of the season and really make an impact here.
Yeah, it was so disappointing seeing that injury happen. You just hate to see knee injuries. And like you said, a player that has really put in his time to be a part of that first team and finally get his first start. And 15 minutes in, 18 minutes in, this happens. It's the worst possible story you could have at the moment. So yeah, hate to see it.
Yeah. Austin, again, don't want to harp on it too much, but I'm hoping he can recover. I think you said 8-9 months out. We'll have to kind of see. Those ACLs can be very tricky. And I don't want to again be too I guess pessimistic here, but I know that can certainly change the way a player plays and just their movement with ACL especially. But, I believe in Richy. I think he has a long road to recovery, but we've seen it with a lot of Americans here, maybe different injuries, things like that. But, Tim and others that, have, worked hard to recover. And I think he can follow that path and get back to where he was. Still really young, bright future. And I mean, it's these things happen in soccer. So we just have to hope for a speedy recovery.
Yeah, that's all we really can do right now. So, I think with that, Pat, on that somber note, we're going to head over to Quick Kicks.
All right, everybody. I think it's that time of the show here. We had some great conversations and content, with players here, but there's still plenty more to go with so many in Champions League and stepping up all across, Europe here and the other leagues and continents. So I think it's time for Quick Kicks.
So you could test Wayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall, and that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
So to start Quick Kicks today, we have Tyler Adams, who played 15 minutes for Leipzig in their 3-2 win over Man United in the Champions League. Big win for them. And then this weekend, he played the whole second half for Leipzig in their 2-0 win over Bremen. So again, not in the starting lineup, which was interesting to me, but good to see him still getting on the field in both these games.
think that's important, and winning is key there, Austin. And shifting more somber news here with Christian Pulisic. He wasn't in the squad here, versus Everton over this past weekend. It looks like something, Frank's mentioned some nagging injuries, complained about the game time, or the lack of rest, I guess I should say, for his players and the rest of the Premier League. So possible injury, we'll have to keep you updated, but a little bit concerned, and hopefully Christian, is okay here.
Yeah, it sounds like it was just a slight injury, but still not great to hear him continue to get injured. So going over to Spain, we have Yunus Musa, who started and played 60 minutes in Valencia's 2-2 draw with Bilbao.
And heading over to Spain, with Serginho Dest, another start. Great to see of Barca, and picking up a crucial win in La Liga, which has been kind of hard to come by there. So again, like I mentioned, played the full 90 and a solid game.
And going to Germany, we have Chris Richards, who played the final 21 minutes for Bayern in their 2-0 win over Lokomotiv Moscow in the Champions League. And then staying in Germany, we have Josh Sargent. So Josh started and played 90 minutes for Bremen in that same 2-0 loss to Leipzig. Other side of the coin.
Other side of the coin, Austin. And heading to Italy's Serie B with our boy, can't forget him, Andrea Novakovic. Again, put in a strong performance. Started the match, played the full 90 in a 2-2 draw, and also had a goal there in the 89th minute. So Andrea seems to be a pretty solid goal-scoring machine there. Yeah,
he's having a great season. So keep your eyes out. Maybe a player we can call up in the next camp. And going over to Denmark, we have Haji Wright, who started and played 80 minutes in his team's 2-1 loss to Brøndby.
And over in England's championship, we had Matthew Ulusunde for Rotherham there. Started the match. I think he played 88 minutes and picked up an assist there in a 2-0 win. So nice to see him making an impact.
Yeah, and going back to Denmark, we have Emmanuel Sabi, who started, played 73 minutes, and had an assist in his team's 1-1 draw with Midtjylland. So, good season for Sabi so far. Yeah,
making an impact with the new club there. So, shifting to Portugal here with Boa Vista and Reggie Cannon, picking up start after start here. You got to keep your eyes out on him in the future. Played 90 minutes, an unfortunate 2-1 loss. But again, somebody to keep your eyes out for, potential transfers.
And a dual nat that we haven't talked too much about, but I feel like we should cover him just because the decision still looms, and that's Jordan Sabachu, who started and played 90 minutes and also had a goal in Young Boys' 2-1 loss to Servette.
Nice. That's good to see. More goals there. We need some strikers. So heading over to talk about another striker with France's, second division with the Gio Reyna here. He started the match and played the full 90 in a 0-0 draw.
That's right. And then going over to Austria, we have Eric Palmer-Brown, who started and played 90 minutes in Austria Vine's 3-2 loss to Wolfsberger.
Nice, Austin. And again, Matt Miazga getting some consistent starts for Anderlecht. Again, played the full 90 there in a 1-0 win. So just great to see him get minutes.
Yep, and going back to Germany, we have Julian Green, who started and played 68 minutes and also scored a goal for Greuther Fürth in their 3-0 win over Sandhausen. And one more player, Pat, I'm going to throw out here that I forgot to put on our list, and that's Valerian Balogun, another dual nat, who had a goal and an assist in 28 minutes for Arsenal in their 4-2 win over Dundalk United in the Europa League. So great to see Valerian getting on the score sheet and making a big impact. So that's all for our episode today, guys. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
And don't forget to check out Twitter, Instagram, all that social media, that great content, even the reels. Stepping it up here. Thanks to Austin's hard work.
Hey, yeah, we got to keep our fans satisfied. And make sure you subscribe to our podcast as well. We're live on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. So go subscribe there. Leave us a review.
And what was it now, Austin? I think you said 8, players there, have been in the Champions League there, and some, at some top clubs. And I think, we're going to see more and more influx. Americans are respected now in Europe. You're seeing that the respect, being earned, and the paths being paved for many more to come here.
Yeah, I'll actually do you one better, Pat. It's 9. So
even better.
We got 9. So yeah, I think like like we always say, all this whole journey we're on right now is culminating into one day winning the World Cup.